equals politics.
Well, coming up, illegal immigration may be a dead issue for the candidates. Gee, I wonder why. But it's still one of the biggest problems facing our country today. Well, we have newly disclosed details about a factory raid that happened back in May, and it proves what I've been saying on this program forever, that illegal immigrants working in America today are nothing short of modern-day slaves. Wait until you hear the details and where the hell is our government on it. That's tonight's real story. But first, I hate to say I told you so. Well, no, actually, I do kind of like to say that. Although this time, I wish I hadn't have been right, but I usually am. For the last year, I've been saying how the banking and mortgage crisis is going to hurt small business by denying them loans. They're going to sit there and hold on to their money and not loan it out. Well, look what's happening. Commercial and industrial and short-term loans saw the largest decline since the last recession in 2001, as banks are trying to recover from their multi-billions that they have lost in the mortgage crisis. They're saying no now to loans for profitable, expanding, and healthy small businesses. We cannot in this country lose sight that 70% of all business in this country is small business. They are the engines of this economy. They're the people that are creating new jobs, not these giant global corporations. When they are prevented from growing, these small businesses, that means they cannot create more jobs. It slows down the economy and the whole thing starts all over again. So while the government is propping up some bad home loans and sending out rebate checks and holding up these giant global banks, the lifeblood of our marketplace is hemorrhaging. Drew Greenblatt, he is the president of Marlin Steel Wire Products. It's a small business based in Baltimore. Drew, what does your business do?
We make wire forms and baskets in Baltimore, Maryland. The wire form looks like something like this, and a basket looks like this, for industrial applications like Toyota and Siemens.
For like the last 5 or 6 years, you guys have had double-digit growth. You're a company that has been exploding and expanding and everything else. You just received one of the largest contracts that you've ever received. You can't get a loan.
It's very frustrating. We were so happy when we got our biggest order in company history on July 11th, and then we got a bigger order actually on July 15th. We were just doing the funky chicken. And what did we do next? We called up our bank and we said we need to borrow some more money so that we can buy a robot so we can make these clients happy, and been nonplussed about how fast this process is going. We need this robot in here so we can hire some more people and we can make our ship dates.
I've always said all the trouble starts with the robots. It's just me. I saw those Japanese movies. With the dollar so low, as low as it is now, this is actually providing, this is a good time for small business in America that make something like you guys make, right? Because it's cheap now to buy our stuff.
We are on a 50% off sale. American factories have 50% off of what our foreign competitors have,
right.
And that's because of the currency.
Okay.
And we want to take advantage of that.
All right, so Drew, how does a company like yours, a small business, actually survive when you can't get a loan from the bank, when you've got new president coming in who, either way, one of them is much worse than the other on taxes, but they're both saying, you know, taxes. Both of them have a plan now, and they're not going to stop the EPA from taxing a company like yours. Anybody that puts out more than 100 tons of carbon a year, you're going to receive more taxes on that, plus universal health care. How do you survive?
It's rough. The way we have to do it is be very innovative, ship very fast, give great quality. That's the only way we're going to be able to beat the Taiwanese, the Chinese, the French, the Germans.
Okay. Drew, thanks a lot. Now, let me check in with Lloyd Chapman. He is the president of the American Small Business League. Lloyd, most people don't even understand. Most people don't even understand small business in America. They don't understand that it's 70%. These are the job creators, right?
Absolutely. In fact, the U.S. Census Bureau says 98% of all U.S. firms have less than 100 employees, and those companies employ about 60% of our nation's population.
Okay. Is it true that these global corporations haven't created a new American job since the 1970s?
That's correct. About 95% of all new jobs in America are created by companies with less than 100 employees.
Okay. So help me out on this one, Lloyd. I look at what's going on in our country, and, you know, big business, I mean, the #1 business now in our country is the financial sector. Yep. So big business oh, these global banks that somehow or another were smart enough to become a global bank but couldn't figure out that, you know, Bill, who works at the movie theater, shouldn't buy a $2 million house. So the government is in bed with big business in the financial sector. These global corporations are also in bed with the government. Where does the little guy come in? Where's the guy who doesn't have somebody up, in Wall Street, or doesn't have somebody, in Washington, D.C., saying, hey, Congress, help us out, cut us a little slack? What does the little guy do?
Little guy's out of luck. The only agency in Washington that's there to help small businesses is the Small Business Administration. And that agency has had their budget cut to the point that I've had ASBL executives tell me that they can barely keep the lights on. So you had a good point a while ago, Glenn. You were talking about how the government is investing so much money in propping up all these big businesses, when in reality here in America, most Americans work for small businesses. That's where all the new jobs come from, and that's where the country should be investing money. But I don't know if you've seen it, but in the last, I guess 5 years, about 12 federal investigations have come out and found that up to $100 billion a year in federal funds that by law should be going to small businesses have been diverted to Fortune 500 corporations. There was a story just last week from the Department of the Interior that showed that that agency diverted millions of dollars to Fortune 500 corporations, even companies in Europe. So, one thing that's...
On what? Why are we sending money over to European companies?
Well, that's a good question. But, today, while you and I are talking, our government is giving federal small business contracts not only to Fortune 500 corporations, but some of the biggest companies in Europe. Again, there's been 12 federal investigations into it, and it's been on most of the major television networks, and it's been in all the major newspapers. I do about 30 radio shows a month talking about it, but there's been no legislation. So two things we need here in America for small businesses is we need the Small Business Administration budget restored, and probably have that agency's budget, quadrupled. And then we need legislation to stop the federal government from giving small business contracts to Fortune 500 companies, because that's where most Americans work.
All right. Lloyd, thanks a lot. And I just have to apologize now real quick before we go into break, to all the Nielsen families, because just put your hands over your ears for a second. Don't switch the channel, because it's going to be very hard not to. I don't know if anybody has seen this John Adams special on ASBL. The guys here on the set have been saying forever, oh, you got to watch this, Glenn, you got to watch it. I watched it, and it should be a requirement for every single American to watch this. You'll understand. You'll see this stuff. It's the same crap they were doing in the 1800s and the 1700s. Same crap, the same crazy politicians making the same stupid moves and getting into bed with big banks and big businesses, and screw the little people. Watch the HBO special of John Adams. All right, coming up, we've got more bad news. Our wrong